All right, let's talk about the holidays. Great time to see loved ones, but overpaying, overpacking, those endless airport lines, whew, it can be some unwanted gifts and a lot of stress. Today, we've brought in a million-mile flyer and a travel insider who's here to share his secret playbook to sail through the holidays. He promises with Sanity, savings, and ourselves intact. That sounds great. Brandon Blewett is the author of How to Avoid Strangers on Airplanes. Let's welcome travel expert Brandon Blewett. Good to have you with us, Brandon.
Thanks so much for having me.
We are thrilled, and the book is great. So let's talk a little bit about your book and your tips as well. In general, Brandon, how about some tips for surviving peak season airport times without losing luggage, your mind, composure, maybe even the kids too?
I think that the best strategy is to book the first flight out of the day. So many of the errors that you might encounter, a delayed flight due to mechanical issues or weather or crew timing out, those are all going to be corrected overnight. And so if you take that first flight out of the day, you're less likely to get delayed. And then I would say to maintain sanity, what I find to be the biggest help is to get sleep the night before, because when you're tired, all of those problems just become magnified and you're less likely to be firing on all cylinders to be looking for a solution.
Good tips for sure. Sometimes really travel brings out the best and the worst in us. So we're going to talk for a second about the worst passenger behaviors, unfortunately, that really can explode or escalate during the holidays. So what's your advice to someone who travels often on how to dodge those negative behaviors?
One of the worst offenders I see during the holidays, and I think it's just because there's a lot of people that don't travel very often, so the spatial awareness when you're on board an airplane maybe isn't top of mind. But in the book, I call this habit the backpack wrecking crew, and that's someone that gets on the plane and is walking through the aisle, and they have a large backpack, on their back, and someone from behind them asks for something, and they do a quick pivot, and everybody in the aisle seat gets a black eye as a result. My suggestion is always put your backpack in front of you so that you see it, and
Mm.
as you're able to move throughout the aisles, you can avoid giving fellow passengers a bruise on their face.
Yeah, you want to make an impression, but not that kind of impression, for sure.
Right, exactly.
So that's a great example of sometimes when you're traveling, lots of people, high demand, we really have to use patience, strategy, but definitely a sense of humor. Can you share a little bit about that?
Oh, to me, that's the essence of the book. I think that we used to view air travel as great people watching, and something shifted where there's a lot more angst. But if you return to that mindset, I love to put my headphones in, play some movie soundtrack that's instrumental, and then view the whole thing as a film that you're watching something hilarious unfold right before you. And I think that if you have that mentality, the worst in you is not going to come out. But I do think that it's always good to just carry a little grace. Look, people are not purposefully walking in front of you. Airports can be very confusing with the signage. Remember that that could be your mom, that could be your son, that could be one of your loved ones, that's there frustrated. And when you keep that mentality at the front of your mind, I think that you become a much friendlier passenger. And maybe if we all take that approach, especially around the holidays, air travel will be a bit more pleasant again.
I love that idea of showing some grace, carrying that with us in our backpacks too. Let's talk about some pitfalls
Yes.
maybe that drain money. We've talked a little bit about what drains our patience, but what are some things to avoid during holiday travel to save money?
I think that the worst thing that you can do is just go to, one website and look at flights between two set airports. Google Flights to me is the easiest way to save money. It will show you flights not only across the various airlines, but if you're flying it to an area like South Florida and maybe there's an airport in Miami and Palm Beach and Fort Lauderdale that are all within a 45-minute drive. Sometimes if you don't know not to search for that metropolitan area, it won't reveal those fares. And Google Flights allows you to do that not only in your departure destination, but also your arrival destination. And you can even set fare reminders when things drop below a certain price point.
All right, great ideas. You have so much info. You've actually written the book on it, Brandon. Thank you so much. Enjoyed
Ah,
reading this a lot. Appreciate you here today. And if you'd like more on these tips to make your travel plans easier and live up to expectations, well, you can find out more by heading to brandonblewett.com and get more on his book as well. Thanks for being here.